Hi guys, welcome back. We are still in the world of cells. We've already studied things about the cell theory that all cells, all living things are made out of cells, that cells come from uh, other living cells, and that cells are where all the functions of life are performed. We've looked at prokaryotic cells, which are really tiny. They have no nucleus, no organelles, and they have their DNA just all throughout their whole cell. We've looked at eukaryotic cells, where they do have a nucleus, they do have organelles, they have DNA inside their organelles. No, inside their nucleus. We've looked at how tiny cells are. We did a little bit of stuff on that, and then we went right into the cells and started to look at all the different organelles that make up the cell. Today, we're going to keep on talking about homeostasiousness, and we're going to talk about energy. So let's get started. Okay, so yesterday we talked about the need for energy. And at the top of your notes on page 4, you notice that all cells need energy. They need energy to do all the work that they have to do. They do the functions of life. They make new molecules. They build membranes. They build proteins. They build hormones. They send those hormones all through your body. Your cells are very, very, very busy. And we've already talked about passive transport, where things have to get in and out of the cells quickly. And so the smaller items can get through the lipid layer of the phospholipid layer of the cell membrane, and they can do that without any problems, just as easily as water goes through a strainer. If it's materials, we call it diffusion. If it's just water, we call it osmosis, but it doesn't require any energy. It's just very quickly gets through the cell. But sometimes things have to do the opposite. Instead of going from high concentration to low concentration, they might be going from low concentration to high. And that's going against the gradient. It's going against the concentration. So it's almost like swimming upstream, trying to swim against the current. And in order to do that, just like if you were swimming and trying to go against the current, you need extra energy. Just like that, the cell also needs to add energy so that this process works. Now, if you remember when we studied the cell membrane, that there was the phospholipid layer, that's the little balls that have the legs on them, if you will. That's the majority of them. But there's also protein channels that, without energy, can open and close and let some of the bigger items in. But if they have a really large item, or if they are moving against the gradient, they need energy to open those passageways. Passive energy doesn't require, or excuse me, passive transport does not require energy. But when materials move from low concentration to high, it requires energy. I think I just said that. But what I want to add to this is that we have a name for that energy, adenosine triphosphate. Go ahead and spell that one. All right. How about we just call it ATP? ATP is the energy that the cell needs in order to do all its functions. If you remember when we studied photosynthesis, and energy was captured in the chlorophyll, by the chlorophyll, and put into glucose. It was stuck into the bonds of glucose. So that very same energy is the energy that our cells need, but while it's in the bonds of glucose, it can't be used. So our cells have to do something to get that energy out. We obtain energy, or we obtain ATP, by a process called cellular respiration, and we've talked about that a little bit. If you remember in photosynthesis takes carbon dioxide and water and solar energy, and it creates glucose and oxygen and water. Well, our cells take the glucose and oxygen, they put them in the mitochondria, and they are opened up and reconfigured and reshaped into ATP, carbon dioxide, and water. Now, we talked about in photosynthesis how the oxygen is a waste product for photosynthesis, and the plant just releases it. In our bodies, when we go through cellular respiration, we release carbon dioxide. In fact, that's why you have to breathe out. You are breathing out the carbon dioxide that your cells have made when they are changing glucose into ATP. Respiration, if you remember, is not just breathing. Respiration is taking the energy from the food and converting it or changing it into ATP. And it's something that our cells do all the time. They need oxygen to do it, which is why you need to breathe in oxygen. They breathe out or expel, your body expels the carbon dioxide that your cells have made when they make this process. So we go back into that circle of photosynthesis, creating a spot for energy to be stored, and then consumers going ahead and getting that material into their body. That's why we eat. That material being broken down and digested, sent to all the cells, and the cells use it to reconfigure it into ATP, and then our cells use that ATP to do all the functions of life. The mitochondria is the site. It is the powerhouse of the cell. It's where all of this occurs. And there's our equation. This is something that I've already mentioned, but do you notice something about this? O2 plus glucose equals water and carbon dioxide and energy. If we compare it to the photosynthesis, it's exactly the opposite. It's a nice circular pattern that goes on all through our world so that we have producers and consumers that are relying on each other to go through the whole process of life. And if you remember too, plants also do cellular respiration. Their cells also need the materials that they store away in photosynthesis. So just to remind you, passive transport, all of those materials getting into our body, into our cells, does not require energy. It's done very, very quickly. Oxygen getting in there, because oxygen's needed to do the process of cellular respiration. It gets in very, very quickly, as does carbon dioxide get out of the cell. In fact, it is dangerous for us to have too much carbon dioxide in our bodies. That's why we breathe in and breathe out. And when you went through your lab, you noticed that not only were you breathing faster to get more and more oxygen in so that you could keep your muscles going, but you also were breathing out the same speed. You were getting rid of that excess carbon dioxide that you were making. Active transport, though, different materials have to go back and forth between the cells, and that requires energy. And that's not the only requirement for energy. Doing all of the processes inside the cell requires energy, and that's where we need that ATP. So there's our circle, coming full circle from our chapter last week on plants to now we've been doing our chapter on cells. It's amazing how God designed this world, isn't it? Just simply amazing. I have a review sheet for you to do. We are finished with our cells chapter. And as I reminded you on our Watch This First video, you need to make sure, if you don't understand a topic, to go back and listen again. Sometimes you might pick up on something a lot faster if you hear it the second time. But that doesn't mean that once you've done that, if you still are confused about something, please contact me. I am more than happy to answer your emails. It's not that I don't want you to email me or to text me. I'm more than happy to have that. But this is just to make sure that you've done everything that you need to do before you do that. Sometimes I might be able to tell you, hey, look at minute number 4 on your video, and can help you find the information. I am not opposed at all for you to contact me. I want you to do that. All right, guys, that is it. You have a homework assignment to do. You have some videos to watch. I hope you have a great day.